Good evening, everyone. How are you doing today? So happy to be with you again. Thank you for joining us on Live, Love, and Marry Wiser. I'm Lorraine Edwards, and with my co-host, Renee Warren and Onita Hall. How you doing, y'all?
Hey.
Hey, doing good as usual.
Glad to hear it. Welcome to another episode where our mission is in our name. Proverbs 4:7 says, wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom, and in all you're getting, get understanding. We pray, plan, and prepare every episode for you to access wisdom for your life and relationships through all of the hosts, as well as our awesome guests that join us weekly. And today we have a really special guest who's going to help us get better prepared for the marriage that we want. I'm excited about that. How about you all?
Oh, I'm so excited to have her on.
Me too.
Anita is probably not excited because she already has the marriage she wants. So
listen, I'm always open to learning new tips. So I'm excited too.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. Well, if you've been watching for the last couple of weeks, you know that we have something special coming out in December. So let's hit that book. In a world filled with challenges, one book empowers women to become warriors of prayer. Pray It Forward for women who choose to fight on their knees. Join us on this transformative journey of fasting, intercession, and praise. Join a community of women praying for the men in their lives, church, and community, and discover the power that comes with fighting on your knees.
Love that. I wasn't even ready for the whole commercial, honey. Yes.
Yes. Thank you all. I made it and I still got a little bit choked up there at the end when it's like real. It's gonna happen. And so thank you all for the support. Remember, we have a book launch team, and there are many benefits to that. I can only imagine and assume that you all are listening, and that means y'all gonna buy the book. But if you're going to buy the book, how about buy it at a better price because you're on the launch team? That would be awesome. You get to read it in advance and you get at least part of it, and you get to get it on the day of its release. You get the first word out, and there's some other benefits that will come with that. So just email us at support@asinglemission.com, and you can just say launch team and we'd be good to go.
Awesome.
So last week, we talked about dating in the 21st century. And I told you all that I'm on an intentional dating journey. We're not ready for the scripture. And we are, and that I'm going to give you updates every week. So it's time for that. Low down on the updates.
Love it.
Okay, here we go. So last week I told you I joined I got a free trial of Christian Cafe. I had sent out 3 emails to 3 different guys, and I got 2 responses back.
Interesting.
We already worked it out with the 79-year-old, and he realizes that's a no-go. But
that was my first question. Was it him? Were they under the age of 79?
Not him. It's not him. He did appreciate my kind rejection of that opportunity, but we have moved on. So there were 3 guys that, that their profile actually kind of resonated with me. There was a lot of similarities in just kind of our way of thinking and all of that. So I really, and they were Seventh-day Adventists. And so I sent them an email. I told you when I was watching the dating coach, she talked about just send like an interesting question. Don't say stuff like, hey, or a wink or something. Like people don't know how to respond to that. And it's not interesting because everybody does it. So I sent a question that for each of them that was specific to what they had put in their profile. And so the first guy, his birthday is December 30th. And so I had just asked him, I said, oh, I see you're a December baby too. What do you do to celebrate your birthday since it's near Christmas? Because that the whole December thing is I love it, but you kind of sometimes get gypped out on the whole gift thing because of Christmas. And so here's his response. Thank you for your message. Growing up, folks were short on money after buying gifts and for the family. So my Christmas gifts always double as my birthday gifts. Hello. Ooh. I'm not really one for much adulation. Big word. I love it. But because this is a milestone birthday for me this year, I want to treat myself to something. I'm thinking some type of music gear. And then he said, anyway, be blessed. Okay. Married women, single women, women who've dated. What does that email mean? How do you interpret that?
First of all, I would say I'm not even going to read too deeply into it, but I will take it for what it is, right? Yeah. You asked a question that allowed him to give you more than just a little hand wave back. You opened the door for real conversation. And that in itself is like a breath of fresh air because most people don't get that. I don't think from my experience and from hearing other people on these dating sites, people don't generally say much. It's like, hey, hi, okay, that's boring. Let's move on to the next person.
Yeah.
But I think that's a nice open door to more conversation. And the fact that he was willing to, share something so personal, in depth, not to mention his awesome vocabulary. I just think I love it. I love it. He took your question serious and he gave you a serious answer. I love that.
Okay.
That's a plus for you guy.
Onita.
I agree with that. I just didn't like the closing. The closing to me was that be blessed is bye now.
No.
Yes. When they are interested in pursuing further, you leave it open. That should have been an open ending. Well, tell me how you celebrated it. Mm-hmm. Be blessed is closure. All he should have said was, oh, well, tell me how you celebrate it. He did not leave the door open at all. That be blessed was this nice way of saying, bless your heart. Like you, bye now. Yeah, men are very, very just clearly put it. It was polite that he did the Christian thing that he'd been responding, but he closed the door. He did not leave an opening. That be blessed is
because he didn't follow up with the question.
Yeah. He should have all he had to do was ask the same question. Tell me how you celebrate it.
So
because she's not asking the man to take her out. Let's get married. Like you can't have conversation. That's
no. Thank you. I appreciate that. I agree with Onita. That my sister agrees. She said, "Girl, bye." But I'm like,
that's really what initial. As soon as you read that, I said, "Boy, bye."
Renee, this is my thing. I totally love what your answer was, and I think that he did do that because he could have said a lot less. He could have shared a lot less. He was very kind and polite, but that door was closed because he didn't ask a question that would lead to any more conversation. And so and this is one of the things that is kind of what I want to talk about in a sense when we talk about dating and relationships and all that. A lot of times women read too much. You said you don't want to read too much, but I was like, no, I'm going to take it for what it is. He doesn't want to have any more further conversation because it's not that he doesn't have a good ability to have a conversation because his answer was awesome, but he shut the door gently, kindly, whatever, but he shut it. And so so when I responded, I was like, oh, thank you for your response. And I did not ask him any further questions. And I shut I acknowledged that the door was shut. And so
Yeah, but the whole thing was great. When he closed it, I'm like, whoa, oh,
But
okay.
why go through all of that
Right.
if it's over? Like, I don't understand.
Because
Right.
it's, first of all, it's a Christian place, and they do say be kind. Someone like, this isn't just, some random, they say be kind to people who respond to you. And maybe he's just a nice person who's just not interested. Like, there's no, and for me, I don't have any investment in him. So it's like, it was just like a recognition. And I think that that's something that we have to do. It's like, guys can be polite and kind without, and still be like, I'm not interested in you in that way. So, and and that's fine. So the next guy,
I just want to recognize too what you just said. I give him kudos for that too, because he could have not been kind. He could have not responded at all. And that would have been the unkind thing to do, because then sometimes it can leave you open to feeling rejection, and you didn't even heard the rejection. Like, so then the mind begins to wonder, well, why didn't he respond? And this way, at least he was kind. He did respond. And then he wished you be blessed. We accept all the blessings that we can get. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right, next one. And we gotta get our guest on here, but she might have some thoughts on this too. But so the next guy, he was just like, he has a dream job. So I asked him what his dream job is. And he was just like, oh, hello, it's nice to hear from you. My dream job is always serving God. And if I can pay the bills with it, I do it. My retirement plan is heaven. However, I've made my career in helping people, sometimes physically, sometimes emotionally, but mostly spiritually. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself? And thanks for reaching out.
Okay.
So, door open, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
A simple question, and I got them in that order, so I didn't read them just for that, but I did get them. I got those responses in that order, and it just made it more obvious that the other door was closed. So,
okay, right. I definitely see the contrast.
The third guy has not responded. So,
can I just say one thing about that one? I am left wondering though, does this brother have a job at all? That's
so he's 61, I think. He's 61 or 63, so he
he could be retired.
He may be retired. So
yeah.
But I mean, not having a job is a dream job to me. So like,
exactly.
As long as he can pay the bills.
He can pay the bills. and he really could be retired now. And so the next retirement is heaven.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
thank you. And if he was 47 saying that, I might have been a little bit more like, he was between like 35 and 45 saying that, I've been like,
No. We got to get more information. So that is the end of our lowdown on the updates for this week. And now we have our special guest coming. We're so excited to have Calisa Edwards, not my cousin, on today. And my sister is might be having some issues. So let's bring Calisa up and let her introduce herself. Hey.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hey.
So to have you with us. Did you heard those?
I did. And it's so funny because I was laughing because Onita and I are soulmates, because everything she said, I was back here saying the same thing. I was like, when you said anyway, I was like, oh no. Yeah. Anyway, what kind of transition is that? Great answer. Anyway, be blessed. Okay, sir, bye. Anyway.
And this is part of why I want to give these updates. First of all, because I just think it's fun and I want to have fun. I don't want to be like stressed about this stuff and just all like, but we can learn from it and just reading the signs of how guys communicate, because it was clear to me at the end of that I did not need to, follow up or do anything. I just responded to be kind because he did respond, and I closed the door as well. So he recognized it, but I figured you were thinking that. But Renee, we agree that his response was very kind.
It was.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Let's see what Hayden. Oh, look at Hayden, our guest from 100% agree with Onita. See, and he's a guy. So
listen, we need to get the lowdown on updates for Hayden, though. We need Hayden's updates.
Yeah. He's coming. He'll be back on the 28th, y'all. So all right. Calisa is here to talk about relationship hacks, marriage prep 101, and we are excited to have her here. And Renee, I'm going to ask you just before we kind of jump into, asking her the questions. I want to ask you how this even happened, because you were the one who brought our wonderful Calisa to the table. So talk about what triggered you to ask her to be on here.
Yeah. So I have known Calisa for years, and I've had many conversations with her just about life, relationships in general. And I have heard her share some information on her marriage. And there are certain things that always kind of jump out at me or that stick with me. And one of the main things that I have heard her say time and time again, and it's something really simple, Calisa, like when you were talking about how you and your husband have different nights of the week where you guys do dinner. Right. And this comes about whenever we're trying to figure out when we're going to get together. You're like, oh, well, when does he, when do I? And I just think that is so cool, because to me, it tells me that you guys have a sense of partnership, and you guys work together as a team to figure out this thing called life, even down to something that, may or may not be simple, which is just sharing in that task of making sure the family is fed, from week to week. And I love how you guys have, since your son has grown, you've incorporated him into the schedule as well. But there are other things that you have shared as far as some of the things that you and your husband have faced, even like in your parenting and various things in your marriage. Mind you, you don't tell me all of the depths of your business or anything like that. But I hear the teamwork and the partnership. And I'm just like, I would love to bring her on to talk about that.
And here she is.
I'm so glad you're here. I'm so excited.
Thank you. I'm glad you're here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Whatever.
Sure. Professionally, I'm a registered nurse, been a registered nurse for 28 years now. And I'm also a mother of a soon to be 21-year-old son. And I understand y'all plight. He was born December 23rd. And I make sure people do not slight him on his birthday. I wanted him to be born. I knew he was going to come early, but I wanted him to be born at least sometime in January. But he didn't. 2 days before Christmas. So, and I've been married to one man for Robert Edwards, and that's why we have the last name, same last name, Robert Edwards, for 23 years. We just celebrated our 23rd wedding anniversary last month. So,
amen. Congratulations. I love that. I love that. Okay, so this is what I'm going to start off with, Calisa. On the idea of preparing for marriage, okay? What did you do to prepare for marriage? Like, were there challenges that you were facing that you were just like, I need to work through that, or did you not see them at all? And the second part of that is, did you all have like some core values that you kind of agreed on before you got married, or has that happened as you progressed in marriage?
So as far as preparing, honestly, when I met my husband again, I was in my late 20s. So was he at the time. And I knew him. We had known each other. We lived in the same neighborhood as teenagers. Our parents still did live in the same neighborhood. And even when we met, and that was kind of how we met again. But and so I knew him. We had talked. I was 2 years younger than him. So when he was a senior, I wasn't like dating. Mm-hmm. So we kind of just talked for a while. It was enough to put him in the forefront of my mind. It was like, oh, we didn't get a chance to really see where this is going to go. You know what I'm saying? He went away to the service, things like that. I was still in school. And so, but he was very kind and a gentleman. As a teenager, I remember that. So fast forward to meeting him. I was in my late 20s. So by that time, I had dated all the bugaboos. Not all the people that I dated were bugaboos. I had some decent relationships, okay? I did. I had some decent relationships. But I can honestly say, for whatever reason, I don't think I would have married anyone that I was dating, even in those good those decent relationships. Whether it be I wasn't sure about, if we meshed, for eternity like that.
Right.
There were some things. Now I was 27 maybe, and I think one thing I did, and I always tell people this, one thing that I did, I took what I remembered from him, about him, and I immediately put that on him in my mind. So what am I saying? I'm saying I was still thinking I was getting the 18-year-old Robert.
No.
But when I got the 29-year-old Robert, he had been through some things. He was in the service, and he had changed a lot. Still a gentleman in the things that he did, opening doors and, stuff like that. But he had a rougher exterior and side to him, right? So I did the thing of, I remember him, so he automatically got credit, right? In my mind and in my heart for the way I remembered him at 18, right? So, and I think because of that, and because of some other things, I had never forgotten about him. He was always on the forefront, and I just knew I'm a very intuitive person. I felt like he would come back around. So it's a little bit of that.
Nice.
It's a little bit of that fairy tale stuff. You know what I'm saying? not 100%. But so like I said, 20-something years old, he comes around. It's what I thought. I had thought that. I had felt that. I felt like I had gotten that. And so when he comes around and I'm remembering him, I think I saw him in that light throughout our dating. So I didn't do a lot of preparing, except for I knew what I wanted and what I didn't want, right? Based upon other relationships. I don't think I did a lot of preparing as far as what does looking at the person that you're with and what the rest of your life is going to look like with that person.
Yes.
Right. So, and to be totally honest, there's no way to do that. But in hindsight, and Anita is saying, yeah, in hindsight, you can look back and you can go, yeah, I could have done this different. I should have responded different. And it was some things that occurred when we were dating that after we got married, I was like, man, I should have been more stern about how I felt about that thing, right? Because after you get married, you're there. And to go into your question about, what type of things, the values, we kind of came up with, I had my what do you call it? I know the word so well, but because tonight I want to say it, I can't say it. But I had my
your list.
The list of things that I will not tolerate, and it's
deal breakers.
That's the word, deal breaker. I had my deal breakers, and so and my deal breakers with things like no cheating, it was no abuse, I was not I don't take to that type of thing very well, you know what I'm saying? So it was very general things like that, right? You can break all of those things down into smaller, more and just as important things, right? As in just blanketly. I don't like cheating. If you cheat on me, I can leave you. I will not. I told him he had been married before when he was in the service. And it was my first marriage. And I was like, well, I'm not getting married to get divorced. You know what I'm saying? These are the deal breakers. I want to do this only one time. And I said that I only want to do this one time. And so he was, saying the same thing. And he had the same feeling about me when we had those 11 years without seeing each other, right? I could see a picture of him in the service with his closet door open. My pictures back there on the closet door. He had always, remembered as well. So, so I think we both were taken by the fact that we knew each other. It was almost and it was comfortable. We liked each other 11 years ago. And so,
okay.
Yeah. So, those were the deal breakers. But like I said, that can be broken down into so much more. So I think at that age and through my experiences, that was all I could come up with as the deal breakers. Anything outside of that, we were going to make it work. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
And I think you just kind of answered part of my question. I was going to ask you about the ground rules. I think those deal breakers too were the ground rules. But what would you say? How did you guys, as you begin to maneuver in the marriage and get into it? And I'm quite sure you can look back now and go, well, we handled it this way, years 1 through 10, and then years 10 through 20, we handled it this way. How did you guys handle conflict and conflict resolution? And how can you share some good advice with people who are looking to be married or who are married and still ain't figured that out?
So I'm still in the vein of married and still trying to figure it out.
until Jesus comes.
I'm gonna be honest. Listen, I have grown. I can speak for myself in this vein that when we were first married, and for I'll say the first 10 years, and probably a little longer than that.
They say those first 5
we could be very, very aggressive, right? When we disagreed, right? So when I say aggressive, we don't fight each other, we don't put our hands on each other, but man, can we say the words, right? They're going to be said with the highest of voice, and it was like, you say something to hurt me, then now I got to say something to hurt you, because I am a self-proclaimed energy matcher, and that is something I am trying to overcome and be delivered from, and God is working on me. He is and of being an energy matcher. So if you give me disrespect, and I cannot stand disrespect, so if you give me disrespect, today I'm better at maneuvering through that, but back then, not as much. And so if you gave it to me, you're getting it back. And I'm going to, and so that energy, that passion just was negative. That was the negative side of our passion and our love for one another. And so that's another thing that in hindsight, 23 years later, you don't know each other's trauma and baggage, right?
Yes.
You don't get the opportunity. People weren't that open and honest, and they're talking about healthy relationships. I did not know. And even to this day, the thought of, I heard Lorraine say something about a healthy marriage, and it just triggered me to go, wow. Never when I was dating did I ever look at what was healthy or even know what was healthy. I just knew what I did not want based upon what my life experience was, right? So I don't feel like I have had a lot of opportunities to see what I would call healthy marriages. And so a healthy marriage was never anything I considered. I just wanted to be married to somebody that I could trust, that I felt safe with in some type of way, and that we could bang out this thing called life together, right? But never thought about the health of it. And so that in hindsight is huge because knowing that now you can help somebody else look at a bigger picture. So
Right.
like if you're talking about my deal breaker is I don't want you to cheat on me. If you're dating someone who has never practiced monogamy and has always dated multiple people, as
Right.
a woman, you kind of got to look and say, he's not going to get this thing right just because he's necessarily with me.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can say, I don't want you to physically hit me, but then ignore the verbal abuse and the your controlling ways and the things that can lead to abuse, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's healthy. That's looking at the big picture. Can we get through all of these things? And so, like in hindsight, it took 23 years, and all of this didn't take 23 years, but it took like 23 years to really start to look. So,
Yeah.
if someone had sat down and told me some things that we might share tonight ahead of time, I think it would have given me a seedling. You know what I'm saying? But still, I feel like people are so gung ho to make the decision. They don't think it's going to be their plight. You know what I'm saying? But you live and you learn and you realize, oh wow, I see what she was saying. I understand better what she was saying about that. So Renee? Now to answer your question, Anita, I'm sorry. To answer your question, I am much better, and he is much better at trying not to escalate everything. You know what I'm saying? That we get a lot more done by talking at good tones and not trying to hurt each other's feelings. Because the longer you're married, believe it or not, the harder it is to come back from that.
Oh, for
and
sure.
I can talk about why that's so, but the longer you're married, the harder it is to come back from that.
Yeah. And I would say, so we've been married 23 years as well. January 1st will be 24 years. And I can definitely agree with you on especially because you come in, everything's rose-colored glasses. You're like, I'm married. I'm legally married. I can do all the things married folks do.
Right.
And, it's under the, God, the marriage bed, not the, all these things. And sometimes you're fighting, and it depends on the people. Some people match energy. Some people avoid, suppress. Some people do silent treatment. So for all these different techniques, again, you made points of our traumas, our baggage, how we saw conflict resolved in our homes versus what we thought we would do. And some things you swore you would never do, you get in a marriage and you like, I'm going to do too, guns blazing.
Right.
And this is coming from a Christian home. But I would say that for conflict resolution, now what I understand is, one, we say things like, let's fight for, like, you're not my enemy. Like, number 101, you're not my enemy.
Yes.
Let's fight the problem. Let's not fight each other.
Right.
And sometimes with men, because, women, we're just wired differently. It's a scientific fact. We are so wired differently. We're nurturers. They want to be respected. Sometimes this is a matter as us as women. I want to make it plain. Sometimes we just got to shut up. Like, we sometimes have to shut up and when they are ready to speak, because again, learning your spouse, if they get to that point to even openly share, that was a big moment for them. So we also, right now, a lot of women are, and I'm one of them, going, create a safe space for me. I want to feel safe. They need the exact same thing. They need a safe space. They need a place to come home to that's home and safe haven for them, and recognition that they are out there most of the day biting their tongues. And unfortunately, those of us who we love the most is who we kind of take for granted, and we give it all out to them.
Right.
So, catch it. And God calling us to be these virtuous women and to be, us both to submit to each other. You're talking about in Ephesians and 5:22-23, the men loving us and, us respecting or being submitted to them. We understanding that you're not, number one, you're not my enemy. Number two, for me, what I needed to hear, because I'm a child of abandonment, I needed to hear, even in his silence, I'm not going nowhere. I'm not going nowhere, but I just can't, in order for this not to escalate to me go from 10 to 1,000, we can't talk about it right now. And so now, these years later, I needed him to verbalize that. Back then I took the silent treatment, but then I'm ready to come guns blazing. But now We've learned the tools and the words where I need to hear, hey, I need to take a moment. Let's put this, like, let's address this later. Let me process it. Those are tips for conflict. And then me needing to say, I'm not fighting. Listen, I ain't going nowhere. Mm-hmm. We in this together. We're going to fight for each other and not fight each other to ensure that we're working on the marriage. And like you said, working towards a healthy marriage, because those are not even phrases I heard in church, y'all, growing up. I didn't hear the word healthy marriage. I heard get married, don't fornicate, don't do this, but healthy marriage.
Right. What?
Renee, go ahead.
So let me say, so that, Calisa, we've had that conversation 1,000 times about how, and probably with a little bit of everybody, we've had this conversation about how in the church, they're trying to push us to get married, but there was not, I don't know if there is now, but there was not a lot of conversation on how to be a wife, how to properly engage with your husband, because I have spoken to many of my married friends and they all say the same thing. I got in here and now I'm blindsided. I'm trying to figure all of this stuff out. So like when you guys are saying, Calisa and Onita, talking about that first 10 years, you guys are having to flush out your whole lives because I don't know what your preparation was before going into it, but more than likely it wasn't what you really needed. That's why you guys get in there and there's all this conflict where I don't know your all's husbands, but I'm saying it sounds like the husbands are not fully prepared either. And so you guys are bumping heads as you guys try to figure it out along the way. But the thing that I love the most is that, and actually you guys have already answered a good portion of my question, but it takes me to something that I heard our dear friend Jada Pinkett Smith say recently. And she was saying, she said, if you can find somebody who's willing to stick it out and who's willing to learn how to love you, she said, you need to ride with that person. And so okay, I got a hand clap. Hopefully that makes up for my response on that dating situation.
Little bit.
Okay. So when she said it, I was like, okay, having someone who's willing to love you, that's already huge.
Yeah.
That's already huge. Because like some people say, whatever is a dime a dozen, love is not. It's not a dime a dozen. Right. So somebody who's willing to do that, I think that's a big deal. But the part of the question that you guys answered was around handling conflict, right? So I'm thinking of the comedian David Arnold, whom I love David Arnold. He passed, I want to say last year, so God rest his soul and bless his family. But he used to do these videos where, are you guys familiar? Where he would do these videos where he's following, he's like doing these videos, just kind of following his family and giving us the inside scoop on what's happening, with his family. And for the sake of this conversation, he used to do that a lot with his wife, Julie. She would always be in the background. They're getting on each other's nerves, having these real life conversations. So it seemed on social media. But at the end of most of his videos, he would always say something along the line of, y'all got to get yourselves one of these things called a marriage, because it ain't for the weak. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, he's saying it like he means it. So let's take David Arnold and what he has said. And I want to add the fact that, again, Jada Pinkett described marriage as being, y'all listen to this, brutal, right? So,
I can agree with that.
Right? Yeah. Hold on. So we're talking about marriage ain't for the weak. Marriage generally comes with challenges. The challenges can often be brutal, right? And so here we are at this term, brutal. How do you guys feel about all of that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think it describes my situation very well. But the reason why I say that is because, in all honesty, it probably describes many marriages very well. It is not easy living with someone and merging a life together with, like I said, with someone who's so different from you, different upbringing, different life experiences, different insecurities.
Yeah.
And if I could be like honest, like one of the things, and so we have these things, right? If I witnessed abuse as a child, um, my husband, like I said, felt abandoned. Like Onita said, she had abandonment issues. You take those two pained people and you put them together, and they're going to try to do better than what they did. But as Renee said, with almost no preparation, because I never thought of marriage even being healthy. I mean, like it wasn't even a thought. And so you take two imperfect people coming from two imperfect homes or two imperfect life experiences, and now they have got to figure that thing out together. And yes, it is brutal sometimes, and it will hurt your feelings, and you will question why did
Calisa,
many movies out there. Why did I get married? Was this the right thing to do? And the only thing, let's say the first 10 years, I remember asking those questions to myself. And I kept saying, Calisa, you told everybody, and you did, that you prayed about it, and the Lord told you this was your husband. You chose him. You chose him. So now, figure it out. Figure it out. And if it's not a deal breaker, it's still on the table. And so in that brutality, there's also beautiful times that you spend together. But isn't that just who we are as humans? I mean, when you just think about, just life, there's hard times. And so you have got to look at marriage. It is not a fairy tale. So I'm getting into some advice now. It's not a fairy tale. It's going to be hard. It's going to hurt. It's going to make you cry sometimes. It's going to make you question your decision. But you have to remember the covenant and the vows that you took. And how serious are you? And it's going to reflect you. It's going to reflect your dysfunction. It's going to reflect your issues, your insecurities. And you're going to have to grow in that. You're going to have to grow in that. You can't be right all the time. People can't treat you the exact way you want to be treated all the time. And what are you going to do when you hit that rough road? Are you going to bail out? Are you going to blame everybody but yourself? It makes you see you. Those brutal times make you see yourself in hard times. And if you stay in it, you grow and you become stronger. You're growing, you become strong.
One thing that Lorraine pointed out, this was like season 1, episode 2, Lorraine, or one of the first episodes, right? We were having this conversation about being in relation with someone and they bring out a side of you that you kind of didn't know was there or whatever. Yeah. And I made this statement of like, well, I'm not going to take the blame. It's not really me. And because we're friends, my toes are open for Ms. Lorraine to go ahead on and just crush those real nicely, where she was just like, if it came out of you, that means it was in you. So like you're talking about the relationships and having these hard times that bring out these ugly sides of you. I mean, it's very common. I've heard it a million times that relationships are like mirrors. When you go into it and you start facing these challenges, you have no choice but to face yourself as well. But the other thing that I was thinking that I wanted to say while you were talking, like when we're saying that, when you're saying the concept of a healthy relationship never even really crossed your mind, it makes me think of the Cosby Show. Like, were there any outside sources that made you think that gave you any type of hope or even just support? Like, oh, well, this is maybe how Claire would do it. This is, or did it all? I've got so many questions, but did it alter your expectation or what?
Yeah.
That was mine. You took my answer. That was mine.
Before you answer that, I need to jump in here because all of that was great. So my question is, and you can tie it to that or whatever. You said there's no concept of a healthy marriage when 23 years ago or 25 years ago, 50 years ago for sure, and 75 even more so. So for people who are watching now who are not married and are like still kind of having the same way of thinking, like not thinking, is this going to be a healthy marriage? Then this is a problem for me. This is the reason for this show, not this episode, but just the program in general, is for us to start thinking about those things, because I think that what you said, Calisa, was interesting to me, because you said, I knew what my deal breakers were. And a lot of people know that, but what we don't know is, what are the things I actually want other than to be happy? Like, to me, a healthy marriage means, like, what am I creating? Sometimes we're more like, okay, what don't I want? Rather, what do I want? And outlining those, and not just talking about, like, personality or your list or whatever, but what do I want my relationship to look like? And then what does it take for me to have that? What does it take from me? What does it take from him? What does it take from us? And how do we navigate that? So I think that's awesome when you said that, because that makes me want to say to people who are watching and to myself as I'm on this intentional journey, what do I want my marriage to look like?
Yes.
And how do I navigate to get that?
Right.
And I think this is something that this is part of the reason that we're doing this. Like, we need you all to really get on board with this. Don't get caught up in the hype. Don't hear what he says. Don't get caught up in the hype. Deal with those issues, and then create a picture of that. And then now let's reverse engineer. I want us to have great communication. Well, I'm already a poor communicator. So what do I need to do in order for that to be a thing? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to jump in there and say that. And then I also had a question. Is marriage hard, or are people hard?
Life is hard. Life is hard in general. I think life is hard, but I think when we come into marriage with unrealistic expectations is when it becomes harder. And when we come into marriage with we did not communicate any of these expectations, and we get disappointed. We have assumptions, and we start expecting this person to read our minds because we're not good at communicating.
Right.
Number one. Number two, we clearly did not communicate what it is we really wanted, because some of us didn't spend time alone enough. Some people didn't spend time alone enough to get to know what they like and don't like. The others, some of us also didn't date enough to realize what I like and don't like. So you got both of those. I want to speak a little bit to the history of what Calisa was saying again, and not saying we didn't see a healthy marriage. I would tell you, the Cosbys was my benchmark. I wanted to be a lawyer like Claire. I wanted to be in a house where we can discipline our kids with just a look. I need to cuss them out or beat them. I knew I wanted to be. I could actually be a wife. I can look good. My husband still wants me after we had all these kids. We plan family vacations. We have family traditions, all these things. So that was the benchmark for me. But then getting into being in church and becoming more involved in going to some people's families' houses, I got to see, this happens in real life too. The only thing about it was in church, though, unfortunately, especially our church, marriages weren't celebrated or weren't honored like they should. I don't think. A lot of times the husband, if he was a deacon or elder, he was busy the whole service. So the wife sat alone, filling with the kids. And we didn't get a lot of marital sermons, conferences, and all of those things. I didn't see some of that happen until I became married. And I praise God for them, because sometimes Victor and I were right at each other's heads and throats right when Dr. Trusty would be brought in. And I'd be like, thank you. Brother Dawkins, I'd be like, hallelujah. Like, it came right on time, because even then at that point, we weren't the type to feel like we needed to go to counseling, because that's not what Black people do. So I will say our premarital counseling was great with Pastor P, God rest his soul, from Meadowbridge Church, because he got real raw with us. One, just the fact of recognizing that, again, sometimes he gonna want sex, Anita, you're not gonna want it. So as a wife, sometimes you may have to, he pulled up verse in the Bible that talked about don't go drinking dirty water out of dirty fountains when you have a clean fountain at home. So in order for me to help encourage my husband not to do that, sometimes I may have to have a what we call McDonald's night versus a Ruth Chris night. So I said, what do you mean? What do you mean? He said, my child, you have to have a quickie every now and again. And, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe the pastor said that. But he was keeping it 100 with me. At that point, he'd been married 30 plus years. He also was realistic to the fact that even though Victor and I felt we had talked about a lot of stuff, like I told him a lot about my family, he kept saying there's so much more that you're going to learn about each other. And I think one of you said it earlier, that there's going to be a situation that happens that triggers something that's in him or in you that you didn't even know was there. We got our family, the things that are in our DNA and things that we thought we could just suppress and we need to deal with. So I would also encourage people, as we recognize now, you also need to have some personal work done on you, like go to therapy, journal, listen to podcasts, and be prayerful, because sometimes we as women, being the nurturers that we are, we go in and we try to change this man from who he is, even though we married him as that person. And then that causes conflict. And not recognizing too, there's a lot of work we need to do on ourselves. And so we try to get you, like, as you both, we still need to have our own identities, because I would say there was a time where it was only about us and not anything else outside of us. And that can also, and I was actually taught that even in church, where your man go, you go. And so I was like, okay, but you need to have your own identity. You need to get yourself healed too, because two healthy people can create a healthy marriage.
Yes.
I want to make sure we're clear and reiterating. God
I think that's good. I think that's good.
God is able and capable. And if we're honest about who we are, because we are, sometimes I come from a strong line of women, and a lot of times they never wanted to be accountable for the bad choices they made, the mistakes they made. It was always that no good, such and such. But the honest woman, with the things Calisa, you said earlier, there were things we overlooked. We overlooked that little crazy eye twitching. He was crying about it. We were dating and we thought it was cute because it made him look a little bit like LL Cool J. And when we got married and you realize, oh my God, he's mad. That's what that twitch means. So we have to be honest about what we come into the marriage expecting and not being real about. So, but we had examples. I wish more people in church and Christian marriages would be open. I think I'm seeing that shift a lot now to where people are being more open and willing to talk to help others. I wish people were a lot more open when we were coming up, because it would have saved me a lot of some of those moments. But I praise God that we weathered some of that. Until he comes, I believe there will always be conflict. It's just that we have to be better at how we handle it and going about resolving it as well.
Well, let's get off conflict and let's get to Renee. Did you have a question, or Calisa, did you have a response to all of that we just threw at you? Because we are kind of running out of time. So
No, Renee had asked about whether they're like anything on TV that, model the Cosby shows. Needless to say, I love the Cosbys. And I thought that Bill Cosby was the perfect husband, right? And I thought their relationship was very healthy. I did think they had a healthy relationship, the way they raised the kids, but they were so in sync. I also had enough sense to know it was a TV show, right? In real life, I feel like he put his wife through hell. So you have to be able to, separate the two. But on script, that was the perfect healthy marriage. And it was a sign of that. But it was almost because of my history and the way I saw marriage, I already knew they ain't real. People ain't like that for real. You know what I'm saying? Like I doubted that was a real thing, because I did not understand healthy and married. They didn't go together. Yeah.
So I do. My next question is about what Onita just said, in reference to the man and woman, like getting married, and then the woman is like always doing everything that the man wants to do. She's just following him around everywhere, right? So in reality, right? I don't know who gave that advice. I don't think that was the most sound advice, right? In reality, I think that it's better advice to say that the woman needs to have her level of individuality. Then her husband has the same, and then you all have your space where you guys are together. So
Yes.
the question is, how do you guys manage to grow individually while still growing together? And how do you guys just kind of find that equilibrium in being individuals and being together?
So one thing I've realized in my marriage, I can only speak for myself, is that we grow at different rates, right? I may be moving, like this. My husband may be here at a stalemate because, again, I married a person with his own issues, and so one of his issues is he likes to be in control of his life. He didn't come from a faith-filled household. I was raised by my mom. My mom was single for was divorced for my formative years. And so I watched my mom, work and go through things as a single mother. And there was faith involved in that. And she spoke that to me. She's the one that taught me about tithing and being faithful. And then you have somebody who don't come from that, right? They had a different life experience. And so he believed that everything, he had to make it happen.
Shoulders. Yeah.
Right. He had to make it happen. So when things don't go well for him, he becomes, and it's all of this energy, right? And I hate it. I absolutely hate it because I'm a faith girl. I'm a girl of faith. So it stresses me out. It's negative energy for me, right? But I also have to realize that we're different and we're growing at different times. Now I have seen him work on that, and he is working on it. But sometimes, we both come at a stall in our growth and development, right? As mothers, as spouses, as a child of God, right? Just in those experiences, we just come to those stops, and we have to regroup and regain, some momentum in trying to change. So I may have to ask you to repeat your question again, but I know I was going at that we grow at different stages. So sometimes, I say that to say sometimes we revert back. I was telling Lorraine that I listened to your scars broadcast. I loved it. I loved the conversation. And Renee, I think it was you that said that you were looking at the question that was asked from a point of, because you go back to it, you've reverted, you think you're over something and you find yourself back at it again, and you were looking at it as a failure, right? And then some very bright, intelligent person really explained that process of, it's not a failure. You just had the setback. You just got to get back on the track, and that's life. That's what happens, and it's the same in marriage. You can't take it personally. Onita said it earlier. We're really not fighting each other. We're fighting the thing that's trying to tear us apart. We're fighting the thing that's trying to distract us from the overall goal that Lorraine was talking about earlier. In looking at a healthy marriage for her, she's looking at, what are we going to do together? What is the goal of this marriage, right? And and most people don't look at marriage and they go marriage goals, but they just mean, I want to look like those people. The truth of the matter is,
I want to be married. I want to have a wedding.
Right? You don't.
That's the goal.
So sometimes, to answer your question, Renee, sometimes those conflicts are still not, in those hard times and those challenges are still met in my relationship in a way that we have not overcome it. We have not been delivered from it. We still have good times and bad times. We're trying to overcome those things. But where marriage comes in at is that you're patient with that process, because you realize you're dealing with a person who is different from you. And you just really have to be tolerant of each other and the differences. And sometimes that hurts. Like I said, sometimes it's, like I said, all those questions come up, but you really have to be tolerant the way the Father is tolerant with us. You know what I'm saying? When we go back and we think we're delivered from a thing, and, you know, I stopped cussing my husband out, but here I go, my mouth is slipped, you know what I'm saying? And I went back to those, you know, those words and responding in that way. And so, but you can't stay there. You can't look at it as a defeat. You just have to continue to pray and ask the Lord, help build that character in me. Help me to know how to deal with my husband in a way that it doesn't trigger me. I mean, from the scars which comes. I love that Onita Sarah Kids said, "Get triggered." I've been saying that every day. Yes. You know, get triggered. You know, I have triggers, and so when certain things, because of my background, so when certain things happen, you come at me a certain way, I'm gonna buck. You know what I'm saying? And so I have got to learn to calm that down and just understand that I don't understand what he may be going through, how he's seeing the situation at that moment, and that I have to not take it personally. And that is a piece of advice. Don't take it personally.
Yep. Right. So one thing that I'm hearing you say, and I know that we're short on time and we need to get ready to wrap it up. But Calisa, one thing that I am hearing you say is that in the togetherness of your marriage, you guys are fighting for it, right? Just like you say, you're not fighting each other. You guys are fighting to try to figure out how to make this work. And just from everything that you said, you know, this evening, you know, your marriage is just as much the gift today as it was when you were going into it. You know what I mean? When you married that guy who was the gentleman when you were young, and he still has gentleman characteristics now, and you guys are still trying to figure out how to get to a smoother place as you guys are operating in your marriage. So one thing I will say, just as we're getting ready to come to a close, I really wanted you on here because I love some of the things that you have shared, because I thought that I found extreme value in them as a single person. At the thought of going into a marriage, being able to work in partnership with my husband in ways that really worked for the totality of the family. So I know on the inside, there are a lot of things that go on to make that happen. But from the outside looking in, I really love what I see with you guys. And also, you know, with Onita, you and your husband, I've thought that way back in the day, you know, just to be real, you know, when you think about Victor coming in and you've got all your sisters and all that, and you'd be like, yo, Victor's a real one to come in and to be able to fully, you know, envelop and love your family. Because actually, from the first time I saw Victor interacting with your family, it was like y'all have been family since day one. Like y'all have known each other forever. Y'all been married since birth or something. That's what it is. But again, to the two of you guys from the outside looking in, I love to see you interact with your husband. I love that he, you know, sets up the little birthday gatherings for you. I love, like, because sometimes when I'm not quite at church and I'm watching you guys online, I love it when you guys are sitting together and you turn and you talk and you share a laugh together. You know, that's really, really special. Yeah. You know, and it really is not a dime a dozen to be able to have one person on a globe full of billions to say that's my person.
Yes.
So
yeah. Very good.
Well, I have one last question for you. And as we wrap up, and we just thank you for just sharing, and Onita as well, knew that y'all been married the same number of years, kind of. So it's kind of interesting. We talked about a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that we haven't talked about because it's, you know, 1 hour show, whatever. And we would need to be here for 3 hours really to address everything. And quite frankly, I feel like we need to have you back. Unfortunately, the rest of the season is already booked, But we probably will have you back next season to just kind of we talk more about this, because I just think it's important. Both of you have said, and we all know that there wasn't a lot of preparation for marriage. It wasn't like in the church, like people weren't saying, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to think, this is how you should, proceed, these are the things you need to put in place. None of that, for the most part. And so we want to use this platform to help people to do that now, so that they don't find themselves having to spend 10 years trying to figure something out.
Right.
Like, you want to be happy. I think marriage, you should be happy most of the time. That's the goal. No one, I mean, you're in a fantasy world to think that you're going to be happy 100% of the time, but you want to be happy the majority of the time. You want to learn how to be cohesive and grow together and love and walk in your purpose, really, as a couple and as individuals. But if you had to juice everything down, stuff that we've talked about and stuff maybe that we haven't talked about, and just give 3 things that you would tell for me and Renee and other single people watching that they should do in order to have a godly, happy, productive, purposeful marriage, what would those 3 things be?
So the first one is going to be, the first one is going to be this. And I've said this since I got married, because almost immediately I realized it. And we've said it, marriage is hard work. It's not a fairy tale. It is hard work. It is 2 people coming together to make a thing work over a lifetime, right? So you just imagine, as life comes and goes, experiences come and go, you're going to experience some things, and you're going to have to resolve within yourself to do it together, even when it's brutal, even when it's painful, right? It is hard work. So this is one of the hacks, right? So we titled this Relationship Hacks. One of the hacks I had, and I would tell people this too, and one of the things I would say is that if you're dating someone, we tend to tolerate things from people when we're dating, right? They can show us all the red signs, and we're going to be like, because we know we can leave, but we choose not to, because it's like in your back of your mind, it's like, I'm choosing to stay. You know what I'm saying? But it is something, and this happened to me. When you get married, and I knew immediately this is how people get divorced in a year and 3 months and stuff like that. I knew immediately why it happens. You can date, you see all the signs, you ignore them because you just all in there, I'm dating, and he gonna change and I'm gonna change him, and you're doing all the things
right here.
And then and then you get in there and you get married. And then it's finality. You begin to say, oh my God, what did I do? I'm going to have to put up with this for the rest of my life. And the hack is, if you're dating someone and they have something that annoys you, they do something that annoys you, hurts you, just whatever. It's just, when you get married, almost immediately, it's going to exemplify 1,000 times, because the fear is going to set in that I am stuck. That's the word. I am stuck with this thing and this person for the rest of my life, right? And so that fear, that's what Satan uses, the fear of being miserable, the fear of not being happy, the fear. That is the hack. The hack is pay attention to the things that annoy you. Pay attention to the times that something is said that makes you feel uncomfortable, or something is done that makes you uncomfortable. Don't blow it off. Now, if it's something silly like him put the toilet seat down, you want to work through that. But if it's something that really, it's going to intensify. It's not going to go away. It's going to intensify. And so don't make lifetime decisions based on and from the mindset of a dating standpoint, because there's a certain amount of challenges and that's going to come your way, that's going to challenge you at every point in time. So that was one of the hacks. The other thing is, summing up, you're going to have different levels of growth Nobody's the same person that they were 5 years ago. You live, you learn, you experience. I got sick, you know. I went through a illness, and that illness changed me. It changed how I see people. It changed how I receive things from people. It changed how I think of people. And I'm older. So you I'm in my 50s. You put that in there. You put, going through some things. I'm not the same person, that I was 20 years ago. So you're constantly reinventing yourself. And so you're going to be dealing with a new person every, let's say, 5 years, right? So you're going to have to, again, just really make the best decisions on the front end. Because once you make a decision, if they're not doing those deal breakers, if they're not, making you look like a fool for being with them, and they're hurting you and just being blatantly disrespectful, you're going to have to work that thing out. You're going to have to stay in there, and you're going to have to constantly try to figure out, how do we get past this point? And so it's not going to feel good all the time. So don't look for the feel goods, but look to grow, look to be better people together. So, it's a term, better together. Look to be better people together. And yes, we could talk for another 3 hours about all the things, but I would love to come back. I'll put that in there. But yes, don't expect a fairy tale. Be ready for real life. And be ready to be present. My son said something to me the other day that I have made a mantra since he said it. And it's have your head, have your head where your feet is at. So whatever you're in right now, get your head there. Don't be all up in somebody else's stuff trying to figure that out.
I like it.
My feet is in this house with this man or this woman. I need to get my head there. How can we make this better? How can we make this thing work for ourselves? So,
okay,
that's juice. That's a little juice.
We love juice. We love the juice. We love the juice. I love juice. So we're about to get off, but I do want to ask Onita, because she was like, got 2 quick ones. She's going to drop on us.
Two really quickly. The pastor said, don't sweat the...
No, Anita, come on.
He said, he's like, don't sweat the small stuff. The new version is forgive fast. And I will tell you, so I've learned this the past 3 to 6 months. I will tell y'all, it's been healing and whole. Like, it's forgive fast, because you know what? The devil loves to isolate us. He wants it to fester. In the meantime, he's going to keep on whispering little crap to your head too. Yeah. Remember, this is the person God put you with. You are together. This is not your enemy. Forgive fast. It doesn't make you a punk, ladies. It doesn't make men. It doesn't make you a punk. It doesn't make you weak. The Bible says, be quick to love, slow to speak, and slow to anger. If we are walking in his will and his way, we need to be slow to speak. We need to be slow to anger, but we need to be quick to love. So forgive fast and let it, like, you forgave him. Don't bring it back up again. The other thing is to make, we're talking about building together with your spouse. We are building something, and be intentional. We'll go get an oil change. We'll go visit a doctor, but we won't sit down and talk about our relationships. We need to talk about it and say, hey, where are you at? Are you feeling love? If this, me making the bed, me doing the dishes, him buying me roses, does this make you feel love? Because it may have 5 years ago, but today it may not be relevant. So have check-ins.
You changed.
We're busy. When you're with your spouse, just like you said, Calisa, if you're here, put that phone down, put it away, be in the moment. Give them the time they need. I learned through COVID, especially going through 6 funerals, that life is like vapor. Do not take your spouse for granted. You do not have much time they have. And we're also called to help hold each other holy and accountable and look into heaven. And so if my forgiving him fast is going to help him see Jesus, then that's what I need to do and be intentional about it. And I love that Lorraine's book is about a woman that prays, because for married couples, any people dating, start the prayer life now, because it will help you have a healthier you and a healthier relationship.
Yeah.
Okay.
So be intentional about it.
I love that. Thank you both so much. I really appreciate it. Did you all hear what they said? See, here's my problem, y'all. You hear it, and then as soon as it comes in your DMs, you forget everything that you just heard.
Don't believe the DMs now.
Exactly.
We have 38. This is our 38th episode, by the way. We have 38 episodes of stuff that you can learn about how to be living, loving, and marrying wiser. So I need you all to check it out. So we are so grateful, Calisa, for you to come, and we're going to have you back next time. Yeah. Thank you. So everybody say goodbye to Calisa.
Good night.
Thank you, Calisa.
Thank you.
And ladies, wait. Oh, my sister and I having some production technology issues, so I'm not sure where, anyway, we had some weather here. That was a fantastic conversation.
Yes.
And thank you all. I loved it. So, we got to have our scripture. And I'm just going to put that up there. Revelation 19:7, let us be glad and rejoice and give him glory, for the marriage of the Lamb has come and his wife has made herself ready. And when we're talking about Jesus, he's coming back for his bride. That's us. We have to prepare for that. How much should we also prepare for our earthly husband, who is not perfect? The perfect husband still needs you to prepare. The imperfect husband needs you to prepare as well. And the imperfect wife needs you to prepare as well. We may not have known this 23 years ago, but we do know it now. And so let's take the time to make the preparations. And here's the thing. The more time you spend with the Lamb, the easier you will be able to be with your husband.
Bars.
He changes you. He prepares you for your husband and for him.
Yes.
So let's take the time to do that, y'all. This is the most important relationship that we will ever have. So let's spend time with God and let's be ready for the Lamb. Well, we have come to the end of another episode, and we thank you all for joining us. We hope you got some wisdom. We hope you will apply that. It's not wisdom unless you apply it. So remember that you can always donate to help us grow and become a bigger, better channel to serve more people. And that place to donate is at asinglemission.com. Click the donate button. Remember, you can also be a part of the launch team. Support at asinglemission.com. Come on, y'all. I really need you to join that. And thank you, Renee. Thank you, Onita. Thank you, Ebony, for watching. She couldn't be here. We're going to pray for her to recover. And she will be here next week. And let me just give you a heads up. Next week, we're talking about domestic violence. But we're talking about it from the perspective of the predator, of the abuser, and of the abuser. We have someone who trains and works with and does curriculum with abusers. And so he's going to come and join us and talk to us from that perspective. You need to be here because you're going to learn some fantastic stuff. Until next time, make choices that will help you live, love, and marry wiser. God bless you.